considering how everything played out, do you have any just like, I don't even want to think about Macy Barber now, or do you just like this was all unfortunately the way it ended?
Yeah, it's just the way it ended. That's kind of her whole personality, her whole character is to kind of be the bad guy. So, yeah, I don't really take it that personally. I mean, that's over. I don't know if we'll ever fight. I mean, maybe if she kind of gets her stuff back together, gets her health under control, maybe like in the future. But as of right now, I don't have Macy Barber on my mind.
She, of course, is one of the top flyweight fighters in the world, and we usually do these post-fight interviews after a big win, but this last weekend, it was a different kind of victory, sort of, I guess. I'm not really sure how you define it. It is always my great pleasure to catch up with Erin Blanchfield. Erin, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time, as always. Erin, obviously, this last weekend has to be one of the craziest experiences of your entire career. Couple days removed, have you wrapped your head around like everything that just went down over these last 72, 80, 90 hours?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I feel like since like weigh-ins, with her missing weight, and the face-offs, and then everything was fine Saturday, and that up until like literally the very end when I was ready to walk out, the fight getting canceled, and then still doing some media, and even UFC Journey was following me around. Like they came back to like my Airbnb to do some more footage, and it was all just kind of crazy. Yeah, it's pretty like disappointing not being able to fight, like having done like literally everything. I mean, had my hands wrapped, gloves on, warmed up, like everything besides actually getting to fight. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the worst part, right? Because you go through like, you go through an entire training camp, then you go through the weight cut, which is not easy. I mean, you have to go through that's every time you go through a weight cut, you're taking something away from your body, and then you're literally hands wrapped, ready to walk to the octagon. And then you get the news. I mean, that's got to be like, I don't know, the worst anticlimactic feeling ever, right? Because I mean, to be that close to walking out and then to have the fight canceled.
Yeah, I feel like it's just very like deflating. Like you're just kind of left with all these like pent up energy and like emotions and like ready to go. And then it all just has like nowhere to go. It's just kind of like all still pent up. Uh, so it was pretty weird, like leaving the apex without having like any type of like relief, like win or lose, you still like went through something if you fought. So yeah, it was kind of weird, going through that.
Was there any sense of disbelief when Hunter Campbell comes back there and like talks to you? Because like in your head, like, I mean, I don't know if you've rewatched the broadcast, but like they did the video package, like we're just waiting for the music to hit. Like that's how close we were. When he comes back and talks to you, like, is there any point where you're just like, is this actually happening?
Yeah, when he told me that the fight was off, I feel like I was still like in disbelief, because then they were like, "Oh, let's take your gloves off," and I was like, "No, I can't. I haven't fought yet. Like I can't take them off." Like it was just so like, yeah, it was like trippy for sure.
We obviously talked before the fight, and I asked you that question. I know you remember, and I said, were there any concerns about taking this fight because of the history of Macy? And I'm sure you saw like Macy reacted, and very angrily so, towards our interview when you talked about that. Not that you ever want to be justified, not that certainly you don't wish her any ill will, I know that, but like when you had those concerns, is this exactly what we're talking about? Obviously, you didn't expect it to happen, a minute before you're walking to the octagon, but we had that conversation and you admitted there were concerns.
Yeah, I was concerned like leading up to the fight. Like I thought maybe like a week or 2 weeks out from the fight, like she has done previous. I didn't expect by the time we got to fight week, and that we went through basically everything. I mean, she was even at the arena, like ready to go. Like that, I really didn't expect. I mean, I know she had some type of like health problem, like in the locker room, but it's kind of out of her control. But it definitely wasn't the way. I guess I knew I had said it previously, but by the time the fight was so close, I didn't think it was going to happen then.
Yeah. And let me ask, because I guess like when you go through the weigh-in process and she comes in a half pound over, and then I got a lot of messages afterwards saying, she didn't look great on the scale. Like even with that half pound, like it's half pound isn't a lot, but still it's professional to make weight. Did you like when you stared her down that day, when you saw her that day, obviously again, you're still thinking you're going to fight, but like, Do you think that? Do you think the weight cut drained her? Because I mean, I don't care how you paint it. You come in overweight, it's not a good thing. And when she stepped on the scale, like she looked rough. Now I know you never look great when you're cutting weight, but it just seemed like she did have a. It seemed like at least on the surface she had a rough weight cut.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like nobody looks like great on weight cut day. It's just like when you make weight, at least you have that relief, and you could rehydrate. Like I don't know if, like I know the weight cut obviously didn't go as planned. She didn't make weight, but I was still willing to fight. It was only like a half a pound. It wasn't like a big deal, but I guess it was big enough of a deal for her to not want to continue cutting because she did still have a little bit of time, but I guess she didn't want to deplete herself so much that she wouldn't be able to recover. And then even with that, I don't know if she did recover properly because it's not just about losing all the weight. It's about getting that weight back like the right way without like further like hindering yourself. So yeah, I don't know if she did like either process maybe properly.
Yeah. So when they come back and they tell you the fight is off, and I know you mentioned in your interviews post fight or post event, I shouldn't say fight because that's not what you had. Post event, you said they told you she had a seizure. I'm sure maybe at this point you've seen her post on Instagram. They took her out, took her to the hospital, and kind of like her medical condition from the year she's been out. I don't know that we've ever gotten any kind of answers. Obviously, I know you don't wish any ill will towards Macy Barber and her health and things like that, but your reaction in that moment, like I thought it was very real. And I do a podcast with Matt Brown, and I said, what'd you think about the situation? He said, I thought Erin handled it exactly how I would have handled it. Like you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be angry in that situation because, I mean, obviously you don't wish her ill will with her health, but at the same time, you're seconds away from walking to an octagon, right? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I don't wish her like any like illness, you know what I mean? I mean, we've had our back and forth, but it's purely about fighting. And yeah, I was just upset. I mean, as someone that loves competing, I've been competing as a kid. Like I want to do that. So when I got that close and then couldn't do it, it's just so disappointing. And feels like almost like defeating in a sense. So it did feel like pretty intense having to go do like media right after that.
yeah. Do you, when she put, I know you said like she needs to get her life together, her entire life's a mess. And I mean, I thought the comments, I mean, again, you're allowed to be angry in that moment. I don't think that's, I don't think you're off base with that. I reposted our interview where we talked about the concerns. Like this is exactly what we were talking about. Again, as you said, not that you expected it to happen right before you walked to the octagon. When you saw her post afterwards, like she apologized, like I don't know, is it a place where you could just move past Macy Barber, you can accept an apology and move on? But you're allowed to be upset about it because you were again seconds away from fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was justified in being upset like in the moment. I mean, now it's been a couple days, and like you said, it's like she's apologized, it's whatever. But I would like to move on from that fight and get something else going.
When we talked about that concern, and it was because you had to schedule a fight before and she had dropped out and then she had all these health conditions. That's why we brought it up in the first place, because we just weren't sure. And she never was able to figure out the answer, like what happened. And again, certainly I hope she's okay, and I hope she gets the treatment she needs to be okay. But I know you said in the moment after the fight, like you're moving on. You're not going to rebook this fight with Macy Barber. Couple days removed from it. Can I imagine you were still feeling very much the same way? I mean, at this point, we don't even know when she's going to fight again. I hope she gets treatment, and I mean, hope she's not out for another year, but I have no idea. We have no idea at this point. So can I imagine in your head, like there's no rebooking the Macy Barber fight?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't plan on rebooking with her. This is the second fight that fell through, and I know she's had her problems, but that's kind of part of the reason, if she is that ill and needs time or kind of just can't be consistent or reliable because of it, that's something I don't want to be involved in.
Yeah. Now I know that like, weirdly, as nice as this sounds, it's still the worst case scenario because I know we heard the UFC gave you your show and win money, which is awesome. I'm sure you appreciate that. But the downside is you didn't get to fight. You didn't get to win on your record. And that's so is it like, I'm sure you're appreciative that they paid you, but at the same time, like you want the win because that win and the kind of performance I know you wanted to have could potentially propelled you into a title fight.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely appreciative that UFC, did the right thing. They were able to pay me out, like my show and win money. I still got part of her money for missing weight. So in that way, like, they definitely squared away with me. But like you said, I would have definitely still wanted to perform and be able to, prove myself in the division. So yeah, I guess I'm just gonna have to wait another time for that.
So you still got a percentage of her purse. So I guess you win in some way, right? Like,
yeah, I still got the money that, that I've worked. I mean, I did do basically everything I just couldn't do the last part because she wasn't, available or healthy. But yeah, hopefully we'll figure it out soon.
As we said, we're a couple of days removed and you've had a little bit of time on this, but and I'm certainly not trying to sit here and just continue to paint a bleak picture, but when everything else was going on and you're waiting, you're waiting to fight, you don't get to fight, you're going through all this, and then I don't know at what point you realized or they told you like Valentina Shevchenko is in the arena, and I think they were, there was a reason she was there. She was doing the post-fight show. When you saw that, was that like just like the extra like crappy icing on top of the cake? Because if you go out there and you beat Macy Barber dominantly, I don't think she's there by accident. I think there's a reason she's there and potentially, get a title contender. When you see that, you're just like, crap. That's just like the worst, like, because that was the perfect scenario to go out there and beat her and potentially get that title shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew Valentina was going to be there. I think I heard about it like earlier that day. So yeah, I mean, I know it's even, it's all more the reason I had every reason already to, go out there and prove myself. Yeah, so it definitely definitely wasn't nice. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I know everything will, work out in the end. But yeah, didn't just work out Saturday.
Now, in the world of like sometimes with fans, and I understand this, like they don't go through a training camp, they don't go through a weight cut, they don't go through everything you went through to get ready for a fight. They're like, oh, well, we'll just rebook Erin right away. But you did everything but the fight. You did the weight cut. You went through a hard training camp. Can I imagine, like, as much as you want to turn around and fight quickly, you need a little time because while you didn't get punched or punch a person for 5 rounds, you still went through everything else. And I know that does take a lot out of you.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I had a long camp for this. I had a lot of notice, so I really put in the time and the effort. And I mean, I went through the whole weight cut and everything, did everything I was supposed to do during fight week. So I still put in a ton of work. That's why even this week, I haven't really been training. I've been kind of just taking my time, like recovering. Cause even though I didn't get to fight, I still, I put in a lot of work. So as much as I would like to fight soon, I want to just make sure I do it properly at the same time too. And I also want to keep fighting my way up in the division. So depending on, who's available when, I think we'll have a good turnaround.
I know you've been asked this already, and I'll bring it up right now. Just looking at the lay of the land, I think everyone immediately started fantasy matchmaking and saying you and Natalia Silva makes the most sense. She has the win over Alexa Grasso, and I know it seems like the UFC is moving in the direction of Valentina and Zhang Weili. I know we talked about that, so can I assume, like, I know you said top 5. I think that's literally pretty much outside of Alexa Grasso, the only person in front of you. And Alexa, of course, is coming off a loss. So in your head, do you feel like the Natalia Silva fight does make the most sense?
Yeah, I definitely do think the Natalia Silva fight makes the most sense to name like a number 1 contender in the flyweight division.
I know we talked about this beforehand and you admitted, you're like, Zhang Weili is a very good fighter. I don't love her chances of flyweight. Just because the unfortunate side of what happened to your fight, have you kind of wrapped your head around it? Seems like that's the direction they're heading.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like everything changes so often in May. Like I was supposed to fight Saturday, it didn't happen. People have been talking about the Weili Valentina, but there's nothing like definite yet. So I don't feel like have my head wrapped around any particular situation happening yet. I feel like until someone signs the paper and the fight actually happens, you don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've seen crazy things happen. I mean, there is a world where timing and opportunity, I mean, they may come to you and say, hey, Aaron, you want to fight for the title? So we can't say anything for sure because there are no contracts signed. I mean, you could look at a million ways and say, well, she's next or this person's next or they're planning on this, but injuries, timing, hey, we got a card we need to fill in this date. I'm assuming like you're just kind of keeping your options open until they actually come to you with an offer.
Yes, definitely keeping my options open. Yeah, whenever the UFC comes to me with an offer, I'll see what it is and figure it out. Like you said, like you never know what happens. You just need to be ready, like when opportunity comes, and be open to that.
And if they call, I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask the question anyways. They come and they say, "Hey, Valentina needs a fight. Zhang, whatever, couldn't make it. She's not there. Are you ready to go?" Can I assume you would 100% absolutely be ready for a title fight?
Oh, 100% would take a title fight if the UFC offered it to me.
Yeah. Can I ask, like, in that moment, like you're so full of emotion when that happens, and I totally understand that. when the UFC talks to you, like, can I assume they were probably very apologetic towards you as far as what happens, because obviously this is completely out of your control. I don't know what kind of conversation you had with Hunter in that moment, because again, a very emotional moment, but can I imagine they were sympathetic to what you were going through?
He came in and he apologized. He told me that she was, having some problems that she wouldn't be able to compete. Yeah, he was apologetic for sure. There was, there's nothing he can do about it. I'm not going to like put him on the spot. I know there's nothing he can do. So yeah, that's kind of what happened.
So you said, you're not going to jump right back into training and everything like this. So are you going to kind of in a way treat this almost like you did fight, because you did put your body through all that? I always hear fighters say that the hard part's not the fight. The hard part's the training camp, because you're doing a fight every day for 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is. So can I imagine you are going to almost in a way treat this like a fight where you take a little bit of time off before you get back in the gym? Because I mean, I don't know, I don't know the UFC is going to call you tomorrow and say, hey, do you want to fight Natalia Silva in a month? But chances are that's not going to happen, just because they've already started planning out cards. So are you going to kind of treat this like a fight where you just take a little time and then, wait to get back into training? Because I don't, as much as you want to fight, I'm sure you don't want to rush back in and hurt yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I want to take a little bit of a reset, just give my body a break. I don't want to, like you said, rush into training and like create more injuries, create more problems just because I didn't get to fight and I feel some type of way. I definitely do want to, take my time a little bit. I don't have any injuries, so I will be back to training, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. And, I know Silva just fought it like in the middle of like literally like a month, like not even a month ago. So I'm sure if we do fight next, I feel like the timing will kind of line up properly for us to both have like a full camp.
And kind of closing the book on the whole Macy Barber thing. I mean, I know there was a lot of intensity there. We saw it in the weigh-in. You guys got right in each other's faces, and there was it seemed like there was we were about to see a really, really good fight. And it seems like you are moving beyond her now. But do you hold any bad feelings towards her just because the way everything played out? I mean, and to be clear, I'm not saying this because you're saying because like you want her to have bad health. I know that's not the case. You're not wishing ill will on her in that way. But like considering how everything played out, do you have any just like, I don't even want to think about Macy Barber now, or do you just like this was all unfortunately the way it ended?
Yeah, it's just the way it ended. That's kind of her whole personality, her whole character is to kind of be the bad guy. So yeah, I don't really take it that personally. I mean, that's over. I don't know if we'll ever fight. I mean, maybe if she kind of gets her stuff back together, gets her health under control, maybe like in the future. But as of right now, I don't have Macy Barber on my mind.
Yeah, you'd have to. Can I imagine it would be like she needs to come back and fight a couple of times, prove she can fight, prove she can get through the camp to weight cut, and then maybe at that point you would consider it.
Yeah, that would be the only way. I think even the UFC would probably need her to be taking some fights lower just to, prove that she can be consistent again.
Yeah. Well, Erin, I know this is literally the worst case scenario. Like I know that, well, I guess worst case scenario would be fighting and losing, but you weren't planning on that. You were planning on going out there and beating Macy Barber. But yeah, I'm sorry this happened, but I think you've handled like a professional. I think you've handled as well as you possibly could handle it, because this is, I mean, I can probably count on one hand the amount of times we've ever heard of a fight falling out, as fighters are getting, it's not even on the day of the fight. Like you didn't get a call that morning and say, hey, she's not making it. Like you were literally hands wrapped, ready to walk to the octagon. I think we've heard that maybe one or two times in history that's ever happened. So I think you handled like a professional. And like I said, I think in a weird way, it's a win in a way, because, obviously, when one person doesn't show up, you got to get the default. But I know you're excited to get back in there, and maybe I'm playing matchmaker, but I think the Natalia Silva fight does make a lot of sense, and hopefully, they give you a little time to recover, and then I don't know, August, September, I don't know if that's the timeline we're talking about here, but I think that's a perfect fight, and either that or maybe a title fight. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my options open and see what the UFC has for me.
Well, Erin, considering everything you went through, I'm sure talking about it again and again and again is the last thing you want to do. So I really do appreciate you doing this. Sorry it all happened, but I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate you handling everything like a professional. Can't wait to see you back in there in action soon. By the way, I did like your Instagram where you showed where you took the things out of your hair.
Oh yeah, I have like a lion's mane like afterwards.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Erin, thank you as always for the time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully next time we talk, fight is scheduled and you're ready to go again.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.